Now accused of carrying out a real-life nightmare.
These two 12-year-old girls plotted to kill one of their best friends
and lured the victim into the woods.
The details play out like the plot of a horror film.
Stabbed her 19 times.
I thought, dear God, this was really happening.
Dark connection to the internet.
This is a very disturbing investigation.
Fascination with Slenderman.
They thought he was real and could only meet him if they physically killed someone.
I recognize the young age, but it's still unbelievable.
It is being called the Slenderman stabbing. It is bizarre, and it is certainly disturbing. It also raises many questions about parenting and social media. And for that, we want to bring in psychologist Cheryl Arrett. She joins me now. Cheryl, good morning to you. You know, I have to say, these are 12-year-old girls, and they say this fake character, this fictional character called Slenderman, is what motivated them to stab their friend 19 times. This is so unusual, but what is it that could cause children this young to not know the difference between reality and fantasy? And is that what's happening here?
Lynn, this is an absolutely horrifying crime, but we need to remember that just because it's horrifying doesn't mean that we can look at these kids as adults. I've even seen them written as if they're teens. These are not teens. These are 12-year-old girls. And we need to remember that these are the same people who probably have believed in Santa and the Tooth Fairy not all that long ago. We make distinctions between the brain development of kids and adults for a reason. These two can't get into a PG-13 movie without a guardian. They can't vote, they can't drive, they can't do all of these things because we make this distinction about brain development. And what we know now is that the brain is only fully mature at about age 24, which is 12 more years from where these girls are. So the parts of their brain that are good at things like impulse control, understanding the long-term consequences of things. Lots of mature kinds of parts of the brain are not even developed. They're not even under construction yet. They're not built. So we have both the tendency for children to blur the line between fantasy and reality, the brain development issue, and then we have whatever the influence was that these two girls got pulled into this idea that this was somebody real and that this is what they needed to do without being able to really fully appreciate the consequences long term of what they've done.
And I hear what you're saying, Cheryl, but on the other hand, I'm thinking there are a lot of 12-year-olds, younger and even older, that read these type of creepy stories, these fantasy-type stories. They don't go on to stab people 19 times. There has to be something different here. Is there some sort of mental illness? There has to be, because kids reading this type of stuff is nothing new. There are kids that sneak into scary movies and see things disturbing when they're too young to do it by accident. That doesn't lead them to blur the line between fiction and reality. So what could be happening here?
You're absolutely right, Lynn. Most kids, the vast majority of kids, would never do something like this. But this is acting out. If you have kids who are having some sort of difficulty to begin with, and there may be some sort of psychological issue that causes them to have a greater difficulty appreciating fantasy from reality, but you have kids testing limits and a feeling of omnipotence that I've heard. One of these little girls was holding that sledgehammer up saying, I can do whatever I want with this. This sense of feeling powerful and acting out in such an extreme way is very, very rare. But we need to look at the brain development. And my point is that we can't use how horrified we are by this crime, in my opinion, to justify treating 12-year-olds as if they were operating with adult brains. I think there's a psychological issue here. I do think we need to monitor our kids and see what they're taking in. And if someone's going to act out, a scuffle on the schoolyard would have been a whole lot less horrific than what ended up happening in this case, because they got these ideas from this Slenderman
and
mythology.
No doubt about that. You know, it's important. You make a great point that these kids are too young and their brain too underdeveloped, and parents need to realize their kids can't sit in front of a computer and stuck on social media and be disconnected from people at such a young age. Their brains aren't developed to do so. But Cheryl, thanks for being with us. Such an important topic to talk about. Take care.
Thank you. You too.